Roll call of supervisors, please. Supervisor Skalinski did call in, and he is excused. Everybody else was here. Okay, at this time, we'll open the floor up to citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to speak? Any citizens' comments? Anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? See nobody. Citizens' comments are closed. Announcements of the chair. Please see Mary if you're interested in going to WCA conference this year. We do have to make reservations and get that planned well in advance, so take the time in the next few days to see her if you are interested. This time we'll open it up to supervisor reports. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of items from the Human Services Committee. There is one resolution that will be taken up tonight. We'll come to that later. But on your desk tonight, you will find a Department of Human Services update on grants, which has been provided to the members of the Human Services and Finance Administration Committees. This is in response to the comments made at the 3/19/2013 County Board meeting. We want to be sure that all county supervisors have this information. The Department of Human Services has been providing program updates to the Human Services Committee on a regular basis. This document that you have on your desk lists the dates that the grants have come before the Human Services Committee for approval over the course of the last 3 years, and the dates that an update on the outcomes was also provided. You'll see a reference to a DHS monthly update, which is a e-newsletter that contains various information on human services programs, including grant updates, which has been emailed to all county board supervisors by the Human Services Department. And that's something that I specifically had asked DHS that they do for us, and they've complied. Also on your desk tonight is an informational flyer on the 2013 Southeast Wisconsin Career Expo, which will take place on May 22nd at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to report that our youth and governance interviews are done, and we have met to go over our youth list, and we will be presenting those to you later this evening. Also, I wanted to let everyone know that with concern to the dam in Bong recreational area, they did remove one of the boards yesterday. They removed another one today. They are watching it really close. The highway department was out there and reinforced the shoulders, and they are keeping an eye on it. And I have a call into the DNR to talk to Tanya tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunig. Seeing no more lights, supervisor comments or supervisor reports are closed.
Ordinance 31 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment, Town of Salem owner Bradley Zuck, land use coordinator, Town of Salem agent, request an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County, 2035 map 65 of the comprehensive plan, from medium density residential to park and recreational and street and highway right-of-way in the Town of Salem. Submitted by Planning Development Extension Education Committee. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Brunig.
Move ordinance 31.
Ordinance 31 has been moved by Supervisor Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Underhill. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is in conjunction with the resolution scheduled later on the agenda. This property is commonly known as 26937 104th Street, located on the east shore of Camp Lake between 104th Street and 104th Place, west of 269th Avenue in the Town of Salem, Wisconsin. The comprehensive plan amendment will allow a revision of map 65 of the comprehensive plan from medium density residential to park and recreational, and street and highway right-of-way on part of tax parcel number 66-4-120-281-2100, Town of Salem. The Town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunig. Seeing no other requests to speak, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That ordinance passes.
Ordinance 32 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding David J. White, owner, Fred Kivic, agent, request a rezoning from B2 Community Business District to M1 Limited Manufacturing District in the Town of Summers. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Brunig.
Move ordinance 32.
Ordinance 32 has been moved by Supervisor Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property is commonly known as 9930 Burlington Road in the Town of Summers. The rezoning from B2 Community Business District to M1 Limited Manufacturing District would allow a remanufacturing business to operate out of the existing building. The Town of Summers recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunig. Seeing no other requests to speak, all those in favor of ordinance 32?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That ordinance passes.
Resolution 110 from Finance Administration Committee to authorize sale and transfer of county tax deeded property in the Town of Salem. Rose, yes. Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Komeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro excused.
Supervisor Rose.
I would move resolution number 110.
Resolution number 110 has been moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Supervisor Ron Frederick. Supervisor Rose.
Thank you. Board members, the resolution before you was brought to the Finance Committee and recommended to you by the county clerk. The proposition is to deed some tax deeded property to the Town of Salem, who has expressed an interest in it exclusively for a public purpose to maintain 290th Avenue, as well as a sanitary sewer system, sewer main, extending over part of the property. The parcel would be kept in a open green space. It is being transferred, if the board approves, for a nominal sum.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no requests to speak. Supervisor Molinaro.
Just a question. I was not at the meeting, Finance Committee meeting. I thought it might have been addressed in Chairman Rose's comments. It wasn't. This initially came to the Finance Committee and deferred over the issue of whether or not the parcel was buildable. Has that been determined?
If I could,
I'm sorry,
Mr.
through
Chairman.
the chair to
Supervisor Rose.
The first paragraph of the resolution answers that it's an unbuildable parcel located in a floodplain wetland.
All right, so is that text, if I can ask, because I didn't compare this language to the previous resolution that came before us, so I don't know if that was in there before, but either way, the explanation was questionable as to whether it was buildable or not. So I don't know if this language was in there at that point in time or wasn't in there.
Supervisor Rose.
I don't have the other resolution to compare the language. I defer to the county clerk. Perhaps she would know whether that is new language or not. I don't know myself.
That is new language. It was put in to clarify that it was an unbuildable and floodplain.
Supervisor Molinaro, you have the floor.
All right, so it is floodplain. It doesn't appear that way on the county maps, at least the maps that I looked at after the initial meeting where this was brought to the finance. So if that's the determination, I'll go with it. Looks to me to be in an area that could be a nice area to build.
Chairman, if I could clarify.
Certainly.
Supervisor Molinaro, that was in that Delmar floodplain. It was a subdivision that never got developed because of the floodplains. So at one time, it was designated as a subdivision, but later was found was not a buildable area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Seeing no... Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification, in Valmar Estates, that piece of property is landlocked at this time, and there's no way to get vehicles in there.
Thank you. Seeing no more lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 110 passes.
Resolution 111 from Finance Administration Committee regarding supporting efforts to maintain the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day,
right.
yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Molinaro, excused. Kubicki, yes.
Hold on, we got a problem. There we go. Supervisor Rose.
I would move Resolution 111.
Resolution 111 has been moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Supervisor Colmeyer. Supervisor Rose.
Resolution number 111 was prepared by the Finance Director, Mr. Gersten. It was also supported by representatives of the Wisconsin Counties Association who attended our last Finance Committee meeting. The resolution urges the Congress, our legislators in the U.S. Senate, as well as the House of Representatives, to support maintaining the current tax-exempt status of municipal bonds. Municipal bonds have been tax-exempt for approximately 100 years. There are proposals in the Congress to change or limit that. And if it's changed or limited, that will significantly impact us in the marketplace. And instead of the low interest rates that the counties enjoy for capital projects, we will be paying significantly higher interest rates for these same capital projects because the interest on those bonds will be then taxable at your standard rates. So the resolution before you urges the Congress to maintain the fully tax-exempt status, not limiting that because it will have a direct impact on our budgets, on our ability to fund projects unless we are willing to pay a significantly higher rate of interest.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Noble.
I notice the resolution doesn't say who we're sending it to, what congressman, all congressmen. Normally, we incorporate that as part of the resolution.
Supervisor Rose.
I would anticipate that we would be sending it to the Wisconsin delegation in the House of Representatives as well as the U.S. Senate. I would assume the county clerk would do that. And you, I believe you send those out under your signature, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So,
We can do that. You still have the floor, Supervisor Noble. Anything else?
Just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very much in favor of this. I'm glad to see that we're taking this up. I just want to let the board know that the National Association of Counties is lobbying quite heavily on this issue. I remember particularly being in a meeting last month with one of the members of staff from Senator Johnson's office who said, and I quote, "Everybody hates this." He said, "We've gotten a lot of pushback on this, not just from counties, but also from towns, villages, and cities." I'm still not quite certain why this is part of the federal legislative agenda in the current session, but for whatever reason, it's still active, so I'm glad that we're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Decker.
I also had the same question as Supervisor Noble, but I also, in addition, have a question. Do resolutions like this normally go to our executive committee?
Some are taken up by the executive committee and some are just moved from the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 111 is passed.
Resolution 112 from Finance Administration Committee regarding 2012 to 2013 carryover and annual closeout resolution. Rose, yes. Frederick, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Molinaro, excused. Kubicki, yes. Grady, yes. Johnson, yes. O'Day, yes, I'm sorry.
Supervisor Rose.
I would move resolution number 113,
112.
the carryover.
Did you do it?
Huh?
Yep.
The resolution in
There's
the
a typo on the original packet that came out. There was two 113s, I guess, so this will be Resolution 112.
112, all right.
Yes.
I would move Resolution 112.
Okay, Resolution 112 is moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Supervisor Grady. Supervisor Rose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolution before you is a annual consideration by the board to carry over different funds that have not been expended because certain projects enumerated in the resolution have not been completed. This carries over from 2012 to 2013, various projects and funds which have not been used, and carries them over to 2013 for the purpose of completion of those projects as passed in the prior year's budget. I would note that we are also attempting to and will maintain, if all goes well, the 17%, which it has been our goal with respect to the general fund.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no lights, we do need a two-thirds majority vote on this, so we will be doing a roll call. Supervisor Grady, you might need to hit it again. I just had that start with yes over again, yes, and confirm. Thank you. Resolution 112 passes 22-0.
Resolution 113 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to replace a cook position with a lead cook position in the 2013 Kenosha County budget. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, excused.
Supervisor Rose.
I would move Resolution 113.
Resolution 113 has been moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Vice Chair Kubicki. Supervisor Rose.
The resolution before you eliminates the position of cook with a lead cook in the 2013 budget. The money was placed in the 2013 budget. The position was not, and this replaces the cook position with a lead cook with the money already in the budget. The advantage is set forth in the memo to the board from the Personnel Director, Mr. Riedel, namely that this person will be certified by the Association of Nutrition and Food Service Professionals, will act in place of the dietary manager to perform nutritional assessments when called for. And the budgetary impact here will be, I say it's already been funded in the 2013 budget, so there's no additional cost in terms of that budget.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no requests to speak, this also will require a two-thirds vote, so we will take a roll call. Resolution 113 passes 22-0.
Resolution 114 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to place the fiscal manager of the Division of Aging and Disability Services in the non-classified employee pay plan and the 2013 Kenosha County budget. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, excused.
Supervisor Rose.
I would move resolution number 114.
Resolution 114 has been moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Supervisor O'Day. Supervisor Rose.
This resolution replaces the fiscal manager position in the Division of Aging and Disability Services into the non-classified employee pay plan, and it's already in the 2013 budget. It eliminates a position of senior account manager, and as I understand it, this is the department which does not have this person in the a similar position that others do. It's a job title change with some additional responsibilities.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no request to speak, again, this will require a 2/3 majority, so we will do a roll call. Supervisor Rose, you want to try it again? Thank you. Resolution 114 passes 22-0.
Resolution 115 from Human Services and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution to modify the 2013 budget for the Strategic Prevention Partnership of Success 2 grant program. Human Services, Holman, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Arrington, absent. Decker, yes. Montemiro, yes. Nudo, yes. Finance Admin, Rose, yes. Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, excused.
Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move resolution number 115.
Resolution number 115 has been moved by Supervisor Hallman, seconded by Supervisor Boyd Frederick. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a health resolution to modify the 2013 budget for the Strategic Prevention Partnership of Success 2 grant program. Kenosha County is one of 9 counties statewide to receive this grant, which is $112,889 annually over a 3-year period. The goals of the program are twofold. 1, to reduce non-medical or unauthorized use of prescription drugs among 12 to 25-year-olds, and 2, to establish a statewide surveillance system to track prescription drug misuse and abuse. There are no additional levy funds associated with this grant. The Human Services and Finance Administration Committees have approved this resolution.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Seeing no request to speak.
Is he pushing his
Supervisor Molinaro. He has to push.
If we are giving,
Supervisor Molinaro, are you pushing the mic when you want to talk?
apparently I wasn't,
Okay,
it's my
because
error.
that's what, okay.
If we are providing, if 9 counties are being given $112,000 each, or whatever the number ultimately is, I don't know if all 9 counties get the same figure. How do in the statement that was just made is that one of the tasks here is to create a statewide monitoring. I guess I don't recall, other than it's statewide. How are these 9 counties going to form this statewide program? If I can have that responded to by the chairman of the committee.
Supervisor Hallman.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to a member of our committee, the supervisor of the 4th District, if I could, to answer that.
The federal government, to be honest with you, has been looking at the polydrug use in adults. And it's funneled down that the DA now mandates that all physicians are going to have any controlled substances prescriptions monitored. And in Wisconsin, for example, when the state looked at it, this area had a high rate of people actually dying from this and a lot of polydrug overuse. So from this moment on, a physician's prescription will be monitored for volume of controlled substances. I also know that they will be looking at facilities as well. They'll be looking at the same type of prescriptions from physicians to pharmacies in nursing homes, assisted livings and elsewhere. So I think it's wonderful that Kenosha got this amount of money here, but I know that this is a national issue, and now it's mandatory for the physicians as of January of this year. So they're being monitored.
Thank you, Supervisor Montemiro. Supervisor Molinaro, was your question, how is the money divvied up?
No, that did not answer my question. The statement from the chairman of the committee is that a statewide program is going to, as I believe I heard him, I know I heard him say statewide, is going to come out of this grant. So I'm asking, are these 9 counties going to establish what is going to be the guidelines for creating the statewide program? Or how do 9 counties develop a statewide solution to anything, I guess is my question.
Supervisor Holman?
Perhaps I should repeat myself. Kenosha County is one of 9 counties to receive, one of 9 counties statewide to receive this grant. As to whether or not we are the guinea pig, as it were, to develop some sort of statewide program, that has yet to be seen or heard of, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know if there's staff in this room that can elaborate on that, perhaps.
All right, if that's the case, that is different than what he stated in the presentation, which prompted my question. I realize we're one of 9 counties throughout the state who are getting the dollars, but then there was a follow-up to that, that this was going to develop some type of statewide something or another. So if that isn't the case, then that certainly is clear. So this is a new program entirely. I guess the question is, why is it a strategic prevention partnership of success 2? What was success 1?
Supervisor Holman?
As to the first half of the question, the second program goal is to establish a statewide surveillance system to track prescription drug misuse and abuse. As to what success 1 was, I don't have that information on me presently. Certainly, I'm sure if we turned to Google, we could find the answer.
Okay, I don't come to these meetings, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to point this out tonight in no uncertain terms, to do Google research. That is not the function of this body. And I was told last time I asked for facts and figures about a specific grant that once again was spending money, that we should have some backup information with it. And I'm told I should Google. I don't Google. And if the supervisor who referenced it would spend more time on Google at the meeting instead of Facebook, we wouldn't have issues.
All
Now,
right, Supervisor.
he just stated again, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that this is going to develop a statewide program for tracking and monitoring. So these 9 counties are going to create this program somehow? That's what I'm trying to get an answer to.
Supervisor Holman?
I don't have the answer to that.
Do we want to direct that to staff? Come on up to the microphone and let's get an answer to this.
Supervisor Molinaro, the state is going to be putting together the surveillance system. It is not just these 9 counties, but the additional dollars. The dollars were actually awarded to the state of Wisconsin back in September. It took them a period of time to do some analysis of which counties to divert the dollars to. We're one of those 9 counties. We will be working on the misuse of prescription drugs within our county and each of those other 8 counties. The state will be putting together a surveillance system. It actually was supposed to be in operation in June. As you heard Dr. Montemuro mention, it's up and running, rather new, and it'll be statewide surveillance so that we can do better monitoring of the narcotics and other drugs that are misused.
All right, so the answer to the question then is it is not part of this $112,000?
No, it is
Perfect.
not part of our money. It is occurring within the grant project.
Perfect. Not a complicated question. I recognize I have been out of town for the last 2 weeks, and I simply haven't had time to follow up on it until now, so I appreciate the answer. It wasn't difficult. And I certainly am not going to sit here and Google it. So this is a new program that came online in September, as I understand it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro.
This one.
Supervisor Montemuro?
In follow-up, there was an article in the newspaper that the county nurse is working on collecting that data and the impact of how it's changing too. So this is money used to be able to track whether or not the DA following the physician's scripts is making a difference too. So that's going to be part of what this is about.
Thank you for your insight, Supervisor Montemiro. Seeing no more lights, this is a 2/3 majority vote, so let's do a roll call. Resolution 115 passes 22-0.
Resolution 116 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding approval of County Emergency Response Plan. Esposito, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, excused. Anita Johnson, yes. Montemiro, yes. Noble, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 116.
Resolution 116 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Ron Johnson. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. This is the approval of the County Emergency Response Plan. Let me start by saying when 9/11 happened, FEMA came in and said that municipalities, they recommend enact an emergency plan sufficient to respond to disaster, imminent threat of a disaster. According to Wisconsin Chapter 323, Wisconsin State statutes requires that a governing body of each county adopt an emergency management plan and program that is compatible with the state plan. There was money that was given to certain counties under a grant to hire a consultant to help with this project. Kenosha was not one of them, but Kenosha did sit in with the consultant in these other counties. So they did piggyback certain counties as far as working through this emergency response plan. With that, it saved taxpayer dollars. It was nice that we were able to do that. So we used that whole session to basically put the emergency response plan in place. We did have one. This is a condensed version. It's more bullet point. It's more streamlined. I did spend time with Lieutenant Ed Van Tyne before this came to our committee. We went through it. I think he did an exceptional job. I'd like to acknowledge him publicly for that, as well as Corp Counsel, Jennifer Kopp. I believe Lieutenant Van Tyne is here if anybody has any questions, and I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Supervisor Kohlmeyer?
Yeah, is it possible to get this emailed to? I don't think the plan's attached. I mean, just like to have a copy after we pass it.
Yeah,
assuming it passes.
there's no problem with that. I believe we can get him a copy of that, Lieutenant.
Yeah, actually, it's going to be placed on the county site if it's passed, and it can be available for everyone.
And then just one other question: assuming that the mobile command unit, if it does pass further on the agenda, does that change anything as far as the plan goes? That was my other thought. As far as the current plan?
I don't believe so. This is a living document, so this can be changed as we go along if we see fit. I mean, our county, as other counties, we have Lake Michigan, some counties don't, so every plan is different, but it can be changed. It's incredible how streamlined this is and how, I think, effective it'll be for those first responders or all those that are involved in this type of situation.
Yep, thanks.
Anything else, Supervisor Kohlmeyer? Thank you. Seeing no more lights, all those in favor of Resolution 116? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 116 passes.
Resolution 117 from Judiciary and Law and Finance Administration Committees regarding 2013 Wisconsin OJA Multi-Jurisdiction Drug Task Force Grant, Southeast Area Drug Operations Group. Judiciary and Law, Esposito, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, excused. Anita Johnson, yes. Montemiro, yes. Noble, yes. Finance Administration, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, excused.
Supervisor Esposito?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 117.
Resolution 117 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Anita Johnson. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a 2013 OJA multi-jurisdiction drug and task enforcement
Say that
grant.
fast 3 times.
Yeah. Also known as CDOG. Basically, these funds will be applied to the Sheriff's Drug Unit budget to support investigation costs, information, drug buys, and purchase of equipment and/or overtime. I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Seeing no lights. We do need 2/3 majority on this, so we'll do a roll call.
Has nothing to do with it.
Resolution 117 passes 22-0.
Resolution 118 from Judiciary and Law and Finance Administration Committees regarding funding for purchase of a mobile command post vehicle. Esposito, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, excused. Anita Johnson, yes. Montemiro, yes. Noble, yes. Finance Admin, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, excused.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 118.
Resolution 118 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Esposito.
Again, Resolution 118 is in regards to the mobile command unit. Purchase of that, which was, some funding was moved by the Finance Administration Committee for, I believe, squad cars. And there was a grant, a bomb grant of, I believe, $116,000. And there was some $42,000 budgeted for squad equipment. All these together equal the price of this mobile command unit. There was discussion at our committee on the request of a parent donation from Country Thunder. The sheriff said he would address that in regards to the mobile command unit being out in use at Country Thunder. There was also some anticipated dollars for the sale of the old mobile command unit. The cost is above $565,000, and it seems that we have that to go forward with this. We had a lengthy discussion at our committee on this. The sheriff seems to think that he can get certain things done. This mobile command unit also, again, is going to house the bomb squad gear and a robot. That's, the question was posed to me before. It's a little bit more expensive now than it was previously. That's because we had to make it 6 more feet with 1 more axle to accommodate the bomb squad robot, so on and so forth. Think it'd be a great addition to the Sheriff's Department, and I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Supervisor Molinaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions that I hope we can address, recognizing that we just approved a emergency management plan that we'll be able to see once we approve it so we can upload it to the website. And we just approved a grant for a program that I think has been in place for quite a while without any of the support and backup that shows that it's been working, that we continue to ask for, that I should have made a stink out of in the last resolution and didn't, that I brought up meeting after meeting after meeting.
Do you have a question?
So we have a mobile command unit now that has gone up in price since it was presented, that is contingent upon some $20,000 in anticipated sale of the old unit and a possible $10,000 in donations. And we're using $42,000 of IT department budget that was designated to the sheriff for squad equipment. That wasn't, as I recall, part of the equation last time this came forward. So why the changes, and why would we not purchase the new IT equipment? And what happens, more importantly, if I can, to the chairman and the sheriff, what happens if we come up short in the 20 grand? We have no donation, we have no buyer for the current unit.
With, let me start with the first question that you asked. The $42,000 was money that was put in the budget for installation of equipment in the new squad cars that we didn't use. So it was leftover money, okay, for the new squad cars that we were supposed to purchase that we now, that Finance Administration approved to push over into the mobile command unit, the 013 squads, okay? So this money was, that's why it went, it wasn't in the first resolution. You're right about that. So that's in there. I don't believe that the number is contingent on the donation or the sale of this used vehicle. I believe they have the funds. This might be a little bit of a surplus, wiggle room type issue. I didn't calculate it down to the penny, so.
Supervisor Esposito, we'll call on Sheriff Beth to come up to the mic, and Sheriff Beth?
Just to reiterate what Supervisor Esposito said, the $42,000 is for the laptops that were supposed to go in the squad cars that were going to arrive this year. Since they're not arriving, Marty Lecoq said you can use this money from our budget for those, because we're not going to use it. That was for your cars anyhow. So that's exactly what he said, and it's $42,000. We don't have a budget yet for this vehicle. We do not have an RFP that went out. This is a educated estimate from LDV as to the cost of this vehicle. The plans that you were given, these are not the final plans. We have not sent it out. Nothing's been approved. LDV has been working with us for about the last 5 years trying to give us ideas and thoughts and plans, and until we actually get something passed, they said we're not, they've spent hundreds of hours doing something. So until we get something passed, we can't do this. So we need to actually get a formal bid out to get this done. They estimated us selling our mobile command unit between $10,000 and $25,000 to the right buyer. It's gone. I shouldn't say it hasn't gone out to anybody. It just got sent out to the other sheriff's departments in the entire state today. I sent photos of it to the other sheriffs in the state. So they are seeing it for the first time. Since we didn't have anything approved, it was difficult to go market something that we didn't know if we were going to be able to sell.
No way. Okay, so that didn't help your cause, Sheriff. I support this unit. I told you at budget time, if we came forward with a plan, I would support it. But what you just said was LDV, who apparently believes they can dictate to Kenosha County how we do business, that they can't put out a spec to get a hard bid on a vehicle until we tell them how much we're willing to give them. So tonight we're going to tell them we're willing to pay them $575,000 and then ask them to go out and bid it. I trust it'll be $574,999.95, if you understand where I'm going with it. This is the same thing, Mr. Chairman, I did back during budget when we wanted to allocate dollars for the new software system at IT. There's no reason whatsoever we couldn't have put this spec out, knowing that you had at least a tentative support from two committees a month or 2 months ago understand what the actual dollar amount is going to be, and then go back and determine if, in fact, as I read in the paper, that the chairman of the Judiciary and Law says that this is a levy-neutral issue. It's not levy-neutral, people. It isn't levy-neutral. What's levy-neutral is to say, it wouldn't be levy-neutral, it'd be levy-benefit, to say, we're delayed on our automobiles, we're not going to buy a third of the fleet in 2013 like we'd anticipated, so we're not going to bond for that money. Then you can say that's a benefit to the levy. But to say this is levy neutral, we're just repurposing dollars that we had for something else. So it is an impact on the levy, just like it was when we passed the budget. But this should have been hard bid, I guess, with the tentative support, it's not approval, but support you had 2 months ago. We could have put these specs out, known what the number was, and then before us tonight would have been a real conversation about whether we should or shouldn't buy the laptops, whether we should or shouldn't count on $20,000, or what the actual cost of the vehicle is. Now they're going to tell us what the actual cost of the vehicle is. See, in my business, I get calls all the time when I put projects out to bid. What's the budget for this project? I get from half of the contractors who are bidding it. My answer is always, I'll know that as soon as you bid it. And there's a reason for that. It's so that you're not disclosing your hand of what you have to spend up front. Do we competitively bid this to multiple, if I could, through the chairman of the sheriff, are multiple agency or multiple companies going to bid on constructing this unit?
Just so you know, LDV told us it will not be higher than this amount. When we actually get, Mr. Molnar, I really don't even know how to answer you sometimes. When they said it won't be higher, when we actually get approval, they will sit down dollars and cents and put it together. They will match it with other competitive bids throughout the entire country on a similar unit. But they have not done that because for the last 5 years, we haven't got it to this level yet. They said it will not be higher than this dollar amount. But when we actually get it approved, they will put their entire team together to give us a dollar amount. It won't be higher than this.
But if it is right at the number and you're short the $20,000, that's the second part of my question, Mr. Chairman. How do you cover that? You don't sell the command unit, hypothetically. You don't raise the dollars through the donation, hypothetically. How do we cover that 20 grand?
We will cover it, Mr. Molinaro. I promise you, if I have to write a personal check for it, I will cover it.
And that's the answer that I figured it would be. We will cover it somewhere, and we'll figure it out.
If I have to write a personal check, Mr. Molinaro, I will cover it.
Sheriff, you can get as agitated as you would like. When you say you don't know how to answer me, that is typically the problem, is that we
Okay, let's stay on point here.
We don't have the
Let's
answers.
stay on point here. We don't need a dialogue going back and forth.
So, as I said at budget time, if we can come forward and have this figured out, I will support it. But we're just sort of close. There isn't any reason why that LDV, is that what they are? LDV, has to have a formal county board approval to hard bid a vehicle. There is no reason that they need that. And we could have already done that. And then we'd know specifically what number we're talking about. So, is this a big gap? No, it's not that big of a gap. I understand we'll find the $20,000 somewhere. We do that all day long. But this is just, it's compounding. And I guess my frustration, which is very clear, is that it seems to be these small incremental numbers, issue after issue after issue. And we just continue to say yes, 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 and yes. And it never used to be that way. That's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Supervisor Anita Johnson.
I just want to say that Sheriff Beth has shown due diligence in getting a very good estimate, very detailed estimate of what we want. It's very close, but as he said, when they put it together finally, it may be a little different. He's done his due diligence.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Rose.
My interpretation of this resolution when it came before the Finance Committee and was explained to us was more something like this, that if the vehicle exceeds $575,000, you'd have to come back to the county board to amend the resolution. If we don't receive $116,000 from the Wisconsin Office of Justice Assistance, we don't have $116,000 to complete the project. If the board wants to come forward with $116,000, the issue would have to come before the board. The sheriff can't just continue to order it without the $116,000 from the Wisconsin Office of Justice Assistance. Now, if he doesn't receive, for example, at least $10,000 in donations here, and I'm hopeful, and we discussed this at the committee level, there would be more than that. Again, if he's short because he hasn't received a donation of X and money is short, he's going to have to come back to the board. So I don't think this is kind of a blank check that he can exceed $575,000 without coming back to the board. He can't order it unless he has these various components, some of which are large and some of which are small. So I think there are certainly some protections here. I read this as an authorization not to exceed $575,000 with the idea that that $575,000 will come from the various sources that are mentioned here. And really, the only two that you could say are absolutely definite would be the 2013 bonded money, repurposing of it, and the $42,000 from the IT department. The rest is rather contingent here. So if there isn't going to be a purchase of a mobile unit unless all of the components, or at least most of them, fall into place, unless the mobile unit is going to cost significantly less than that which we've authorized. So I think there are a sufficient number of protections here.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Kohlmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to point out, or just kind of throw in my 2 cents as far as, I think this is an issue, and I appreciate all the concerns as far as some of the budgeting and the bid process goes. I think those are good questions, and this was, I think, heavily vetted a lot throughout the process. But I think this is one issue where, you know, we got to step back and look at the big picture and not get so hung up in some of these small details, you know, maybe being penny wise and pound foolish, that you can make a lasting impact, something in my mind so important. Look at the news every day, look at Boston yesterday, that there's issues going on in our world today that we have to, as a board, address. And I'd hope and pray that we wouldn't have to use this hardly at all. But just given the situations with the timing of the vehicles, the grant money, I mean, this is a perfect situation where we can buy something, invest in our community that's a safety issue that we wouldn't have to bond for in the future, and that would make, I mean, to me, there's so few decisions on this board sometimes that there's such lasting impacts. There's routine decisions, but this to me is a monumental decision that I just think, just don't get hung up so much in the details of this one, would be my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kohlmeyer. Supervisor Montemuro.
I also would like to support the sheriff on this. I've heard him over and over again explain this. And he said it was a perfect storm that we were able to take the funding from the vehicles to have this available. And I agree with him. And as far as I know, the $116,000 was approved when he was at our last meeting. So I fully support this resolution. I think he has more than shown us that we need this. He's doing the best he can to make sure we have it. He's making sure the quality is what this community needs. and I appreciate all the effort he put into it. So I fully support this.
Thank you, Supervisor Montemiro. Supervisor Molinaro.
So we have safeguards in place, adequate protection, something to that effect, as mentioned by Supervisor Rose. What is the sunset for making sure the dollars are there? Because when you approve the resolution tonight, these specs can be put out, this vehicle can be ordered tomorrow. If it could happen that quickly, it could be ordered tomorrow. So what is the sunset for the sheriff to sell the current mobile command unit or raise the $10,000? When you say to me, don't get hung up in the details, the more, it's funny when I get hung up in the details whether I support or don't support something, and I think I've shown that routinely. Where the details want to seem to be just ignored, and that's, take that any way you want, in a good way or a bad way, is when you support an issue. I urge the board to get hung up in the details on every issue. All I'm asking is once this is approved, you can say you have whatever safeguards in place you believe you have. This is the only authorization the sheriff needs to proceed. Is this going to come back with the final bid for us to review and approve, if I could, Mr. Chairman?
Either Supervisor Rose or Sheriff Beth. Was that discussion? Supervisor Rose.
All right. I think you have to look very carefully at the words of the resolution, because the next to the last paragraph here, I direct your attention, it says, except the utilization of funds listed above. And that's what I said before. What are the funds listed above that he can be assured of? $397,000 bonds, $42,000 IT equipment. Now, that's the only thing right this minute that he is assured of. The rest of that has to fall into place. Could the sheriff today just go out and order it without the funds in place? I don't think so, because I think the resolution is pretty clear here that it's a authorization. $575,000 is the top price that can be paid without coming back to the board. But he's got to have all of this funds in place in order to pay for it. I don't think the sheriff's position is elected position. I can't imagine the sheriff would want to go out and order a vehicle without having the funds in place. That's what this says, except the utilization of funds listed above. You have to get the funds first and then pay for it. That's the way I read it. I think that's sufficient guarantees, and it's a clear reading of the what we have printed. So,
all right, so then
that's the way I read it.
Then this
Supervisor Molinaro, you still have the floor.
Can all be wrapped up? I'm aware. Very simply, I heard the question asked and the sheriff nodded his head. The grant from the federal government is currently in place, in hand. Sheriff is saying yes. So
yes.
We have either received the funds or received the commitment.
Yes.
So all we're short right now is the $20,000. And now I'm told it's 10. All right. So which one of the two 10s do we have, if I could, Mr. Chairman?
Sheriff Beth.
The unit has been roughly spec'd out by LDV for $565,000. The amount that came up that was put in the in this resolution, the proposal is $575,000. If the mobile command unit sells for at least $10,000, this entire project is covered. If it sells for more than $10,000, there's excess revenue involved. If Country Thunder makes any donation, that'll put it over too. So LDV says the vehicle will easily sell for $10,000. We have not discussed with them a trade-in. We've not discussed just selling it. I did put it on the sheriff's website today to see if anyone is interested. I've got no responses. Truthfully, I couldn't send pictures out until just before this meeting. I shipped the pictures out just before I came over here. So there's no responses. We don't respond, we don't buy things like that in county government. So the only thing I'm short...
to just restate what you said, we have the money in place all the way up to needing $10,000.
Yes.
Okay. Supervisor Molinaro, any questions for the sheriff while he's up there?
It's a great day when you pay attention to the details and you ask the questions. Occasionally, they will get answered. That's not a slight, Mr. Sheriff. That's just a statement. Don't just fluff it off. I would have asked these same questions had I been available. I simply wasn't.
Do you have any others?
I'm assuming the unit will be bid. Once the specs are done, goes out to bid. That'll be reported to the committees, and I look forward to hearing what that is. And I continue to have some reservations about making sure we cover that nut. Sounds like we've got most of it in place. 565, which is the number, we put 575 in here. So, you know, it's all apparently relative, and I guess those details are fair enough and close enough for everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Supervisor Noble.
I was just going to say, explain what the sheriff just got done explaining, so I pass.
Thank you, Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Arrington.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank the sheriff, first of all, for his due diligence. We've been addressing this issue for quite some time, and he's been very patient, and we've worked together to try to get it to this point. And I think that it's a huge positive thing that we're doing here at this point to get the ball rolling. Kind of piggybacking off of what Supervisor Kohlmeyer says, Kenosha County has been extremely blessed and extremely favored to not experience any major situations that would require for us to have a mobile command unit in place. It's definitely something that we need. I think that it's better to have something in place that you will need in times of disaster than to not have it and to struggle with getting our law enforcement out to the people, especially the people that live beyond the city of Kenosha out in the county. So I just wanted to say that to Sheriff Beth. I was looking at the resolution here. We've got 12 supervisors that approve this in committee. I believe Supervisor Molinaro's points are well taken, and I would like to see this go forward and for us to do whatever we need to do to support the Sheriff's Department in his effort for the mobile command unit. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Arrington. Anybody else on the issue? Seeing nobody, we do need a 2/3 vote on this, so we will need to do a roll call. Resolution 118 passes 22-0.
Resolution 119 from Public Works Facility and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution to purchase parcel of land for County Trunk Highway W reconstruction project. Public Works, Elverman, yes. Noble, abstain. Dodge, yes. Nudo, no. Skalitsky, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro excused.
Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 119.
Resolution 119 has been moved by Supervisor Elverman, seconded by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Elverman.
Mr. Chairman and fellow board members, when we do road projects, many times one of the largest expenses is buying the right-of-ways. In the daily activities of our highway commissioner, he does many road visits and travels our highways, looks at our shoulders, everything that he does. And he noticed a future project which is designated for 2015, but our engineering has been ongoing on the project, a widening, or actually a straightening of a very dangerous curve on Highway W in the town of Wheatland. They saw that the land was for sale. Now, our right-of-way acquisition money was estimated at $300,000. It's currently owned by HUD, and the asking price is $82,900. So naturally, Mr. Sitzman brought that to the committee and the Finance Committee's attention, and it is our intent and desire to allow him to have the authority and the county to have the authority to bid and purchase that property. It is going to be a large savings, and it will be a step up on this project, which is designated for 2015. So I would ask for your approval, and the expense at this point would be covered under monies that we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Supervisor Nudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the time of the committee meeting, I had quite a few questions which they were not answered. I had the opportunity to talk to Gary and Corporation Counsel after that. All the questions were answered, so I'm more than happy to vote for the resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Nudo. Seeing no more lights, this does require a 2/3 vote, so we will take a roll call on it. Resolution 119 passes 22-0.
Resolution 120 from Public Works Facility and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution to transfer ownership of existing County Trunk Highway H right-of-way to Majestic Realty. Alverman, yes. Noble abstained. Dodge, yes. Nudo, yes. Skalitsky, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, excused.
Supervisor Alverman.
Move Resolution 120, Mr. Chairman.
Resolution 120 has been moved by Supervisor Alverman, seconded by Supervisor Nudo. Supervisor Alverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you've read this resolution, it's pretty clear. We had a road project, I believe it was 1964, where we purchased a right-of-way on Highway H from Illinois State Line to Highway 50. There's a section that we still own, and there's Majestic Realty is planning on building a 1.18 million square foot warehouse distribution center there. And for setbacks, this right-of-way is important to them as far as where they can adjust what they can do with this building. We have a 852 square foot piece of the old right-of-way, 852 square feet, so the size of an average apartment, that we have no use for. Our commissioner says that it's a piece of land that we don't need for our right-of-way. We have our 60 feet of right-of-way. So what they're asking is for us to dedicate that to them. Again, it's the size of an average apartment for a over $1 million or 1 million square foot distribution center that will employ initially 100 people. So we're asking for your approval, and it's a very just use for that piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Seeing no request to speak, roll call has been requested.
Well, he might have a conflict.
Resolution 120 passes 21-0 with one abstention.
Resolution 121 from Planning, Development, Extension, Education Committee, proposed comprehensive plan amendment, Town of Salem owner, Bradley Zuck, land use coordinator, Town of Salem agent, request an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County, 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan from medium-density residential to park and recreational and street and highway right-of-way in the Town of Salem. Brunig, yes. Decker, yes. Underhill, yes. Dodge, yes. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Brunig.
Move Resolution 121.
Resolution 121 has been moved by Supervisor Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The state requires a resolution from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee and an ordinance from the full county board to amend the comprehensive plan. The resolution would allow an amendment to the Kenosha County Comprehensive Plan for a change from medium-density residential to park and recreational and street and highway right-of-way in the Town of Salem. The Town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunig. Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Resolution 121? Oh,
Grady.
I didn't see the light on.
Thank you.
Supervisor Grady?
Thank you. Through the chair to Supervisor Brunig, just for the benefit of myself and the board, explain the interrelationship between Ordinance 31 and Resolution 121. And is this routine? Do we do this all the time? Or just give us some background, if you would, please.
Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple years ago, when we passed the comprehensive plan amendment, the state requires us to do two of them, a resolution and an ordinance. The ordinance comes first to go ahead and change this, and then the resolution at the end to change the comprehensive plan.
Just to follow up on that. And it's acceptable to do them both in the same meeting? It doesn't have to have a waiting period or delay or anything?
No, all of them are required in the same meeting.
They are required in the same
Yes.
meeting? I see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. All those in favor of Resolution 121? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 121 is passed.
Communications, 11 from Andy M. Bueller regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, Extension, Education Committee.
Receive and file that communication.
Claims, 19, Signature Bridge Incorporated claim for public improvement lien.
Refer to the Corporation Council.
20, Alicia Pollock, vehicle damage.
Refer to the Corporation Council.
Approval of the April 3rd, 2013 minutes by Supervisor Grady.
Supervisor Grady.
Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented of April 3rd, 2013.
It's been moved by Supervisor Grady, seconded by Supervisor Dodge to approve the April 3rd, 2013 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Those minutes are approved.
Adjourn, sin die.
It's been moved by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Esposito to adjourn Sendai. We'll take a 5-minute break and then continue with the next portion of the meeting. Yes. Okay, that's fine. If there's no need for it, we'll move on.
You have to get this set up a minute, so.
All right,
give us a second.
let Edie set this up then and give us a break for that, and then we'll move forward with the next portion.
What do we have next? You let me know when you're good to go, Edie.
You good? Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, supervisors. Okay, at this time, we'll open it up to citizens' comments. We have fewer citizens here than before. Any citizens' comments? Any citizens' comments? Seeing none, citizens' comments are closed. Announcements of the chair. I'm just going to make one comment. We're going to work a little bit harder on respecting each other in these meetings, or I'm going to start gaveling. It comes from everybody. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but we are professionals here. We represent our constituents, and let's act like it. So let's move on with any supervisor reports. Supervisor Rose.
This being the organizational meeting, it would, I think it'd probably be appropriate to bring to your attention the page in the previous meetings, resolutions and ordinances, the 2012 preliminary general fund estimate, which I think much to the credit of the county executive and this board, shows that we have 17.5% reserves as percent of the general fund expenditures. That's based upon the rule, financial rule that we established for ourselves. We looked at what other counties do across the country. This is considered more at the top end of what counties do. The goal, the standard that we've attempted to meet, and it's consistent with higher standards around the country, according to Ayler's representative, Michael Harrigan. I'd also bring to your attention that we're forecasted, and these are unaudited, but probably quite accurate. We're forecasting an increase in the general fund by over $2 million. I think that's quite an accomplishment in these kinds of economic times. If you compare this to other communities, other counties, the state, this is an exception to the rule. In a conversation that I had with Mr. Harrigan about 10 days ago, about what are the possibilities of upgrading to AAA status, our bond rating, he thinks that we're certainly on the right track if we keep doing the kinds of things financially that we have done in 2012. What will, I think, push us more in that direction is a general upgrade in the economic conditions in Kenosha County. Real estate prices going up instead of down. Our tax collections, delinquent tax collections coming in, and a general boost in the economy as well will be the things that probably boost our rating to AAA if we keep on the same financial track that we have in 2012. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to take a moment to update the board on the NACO legislative conference that I attended in Washington, D.C. last month in early March. There are 4 components to the conference that ran simultaneously. First was a day-long innovation summit on Saturday focused on technology. The second were the steering and subcommittee meetings that ran Saturday through Monday. And there were workshops Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and of course, the really key component, which is the meetings with federal legislators on the Hill. Our meetings with legislators, there were 2 teams of us that went out. Some of us went out with WCA, some of us went out with some other counties. Myself and 2 others from Kenosha went with meetings arranged by the Outagamie County lobbyist. Apparently some of our fellow counties employ a lobbyist who helps with some of their intergovernmental affairs work. Meetings were held with the office staff of each member of Congress as well as both senators. We were able to have FaceTime with Congressmen Petra, Duffy, and Kind. The topics covered, of course, were the taxation of municipal bonds, transportation funding, the Child Health Care Crisis Relief Act, and we touched very briefly on the sequester. Due to meetings on the Hill, I was unable to attend any of the workshops. I was, however, able to attend several of the steering committee meetings, and the steering committees for NACO are very important. Counties pass resolutions, not necessarily just from their county boards, but also through their state associations that go on to those steering committees. And those steering committees, the things that come out of that, end up being items that NACO lobbies on as a whole, all 3,069 counties in the United States. So I attended a joint meeting of the Health, Human Services, Education, and Long-Term Care, which focused on the Affordable Care Act and how it applied to folks who are in long-term care. The speakers for that were James Tews, the Senior Policy Advisor to the Assistant Secretary for Aging, and John Wren, Deputy Administrator for the Center for Disability and Aging Policy from HHS. Basically, the summary of that was HHS is saying, we're not certain how the Affordable Care Act will affect folks who have long-term care needs. It's a population that a significant portion of the healthcare system is not necessarily familiar with, and they're really looking to county officials to get guidance on what works and what doesn't work. I also attended a Transportation Steering Committee meeting and heard about the state of Amtrak in the United States by the Amtrak CEO and President, Joseph Boardman, who essentially said, every governor likes Amtrak, but what they don't necessarily like is trying to work with states, and that can sometimes be problematic. He really pushed counties to try to take a long-term view in terms of the funding sustainability for Amtrak. So right now they're on a year-by-year budget basis. He said it would be helpful if the counties association would lobby so that Amtrak could have a 2-year, maybe even a 3-year funding outlook from Congress. I attended the Community and Economic Development Steering Committee and got an economic update from Mark Doms, the newly appointed Undersecretary for Economic Affairs at the U.S. Department of Commerce. It was very insightful. We had a very spirited but brief debate on the effectiveness or lack of effectiveness regarding lowering taxes to spur job creation. I attended the Healthcare Steering Committee, which focused on health data and GIS utilization. One of the principal speakers for that was Dr. Kristen Kurland of the Heinz School of Public Policy and Management from Carnegie Mellon University. And basically what she's done is she's written a textbook. Communities have surveyed their population about health habits and trends, and then have utilized GIS data to get a picture of that mapping-wise in terms of what certain things look like. And actually, she was kind enough to let me have a copy of her textbook, which is written for computer programmers. So I'll be turning that over to our IT department. Lastly, the day-long Innovation Summit covered several topics, among them cloud technology, new economic development models, new approaches to public safety, GIS applications, and for me, the most interesting, open data and the app economy. Presentations were given by Norm Jackness, who is the Internet Business Solutions Group Director for Cisco Systems, Mark Cleverly, the Director of Public Safety Solutions for IBM, Dr. Anand Paul, who is the Global Research Development Relationship Manager for the IBM Research Division, Dr. Alan Shark, Executive Director of the Public Technology Institute, Mr. Don Partier, Director of Product Marketing Management and Hosting Managed Apps and Cloud Solutions of AT&T Services, Bill Schreier, Deputy Director for the Center for Digital Government, and there were several IT or CIO, Chief Information or Chief Innovation Officers, and elected folks from various counties throughout the U.S. About that, the only thing that I'll say is on my way to D.C., I was reading Gavin Newsom's new book, Citizenville, which if you've not picked up to read, you should. It's extraordinarily fascinating. And that really helped prepare me for a lot of what I was going to hear at the Innovation Summit unknowingly. There's some very cool things that we have the potential, I think, to do here in Kenosha County, and I've started working on that. As soon as I have clarity on how it's going to be presented and a timetable for completion, I'll give the board the details about rolling that out. Right now, the research is done, and it mostly exists as an outline. There'll be several policy pieces for consideration and implementation. Two closing things from that conference. They have formed a NACO Next Generation group for younger supervisors and county officials. However that's defined remains yet to be seen. I do want to say that NACO is the 7th largest lobbying organization in the U.S. 3,069 counties is nothing to sneeze at. And I was surprised by how many counties take their role in terms of intergovernmental relationships as perhaps more seriously than we do. A lot of times we do things and we say it's a feel-good resolution. I was in several rooms with people who don't necessarily believe that to be the case. One county actually was so serious, they brought forth a resolution regarding India and an economic issue that they had. So I think perhaps we should take ourselves a bit more seriously. Sometimes the legislative process is long. There are political discussions that go on that we're not necessarily privileged to. But eventually, if you push hard enough, something does happen in your favor. I think, having folks from your state all across the nation come and lobby on an issue or several issues is incredibly difficult for the feds to ignore. In closing, I also want to mention that I had a conversation with Milwaukee County Board Chairwoman Marina Dmitrievic. She did say that she would like to do a mixer between Kenosha and Milwaukee counties to get some sort of dialogue and some sort of social relationship going. So I assume details on that will be forthcoming from her. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Holman. Seeing no other lights, moving on.
County Executive Appointments, Brooke and Fusina to serve on the Kenosha County Workforce Development Board.
Refer to the Human Services Committee.
Gregory S. Woodward to serve on the Kenosha County Workforce Development Board.
Refer to the Human Services Committee.
Lieutenant Thomas A. Padoka, Sr. to serve on the Kenosha County Traffic Safety Commission.
Refer to Public Works and Facilities.
Supervisor Rick Dodge to serve on the Kenosha County Local Emergency Planning Committee.
Refer to Judiciary and Law. That's been moved by Supervisor Underhill, seconded by Supervisor Arrington to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.